All right, welcome to the Underdog Ecom podcast, where two ecom brand founders are figuring out in real time.
Yeah, we're not here to preach. We're here in the thick of it, making mistakes, testing all sorts of ideas, and really sharing the journey of how we've been growing these brands from day zero. Hopefully you learn a little bit, perhaps come away with some ideas that save you time and money. And so if you're tired of the same glittery D2C advice from those 9-figure gurus, you're here in the right place.
Let's get into it.
All right, we're back. It is the end of the year. Jack's got an amazing jacket on, no big deal.
Represent.
And yes, love it. It's the end of the year. We're gonna do a little recap on 2025, which is pretty nuts to think about. Gonna dive into some quick stats, fun stats around the pod here, which is cool to see, and then talk about the state of the union in terms of D2C and ecom land, and then maybe let's dig into like our brands and their perspective too on the year. And what's happened in the last 12 months. Cool. Jack, how you doing? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm very warm right now with this amazing jacket on. Present from across the pond. But yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, we're mid-December now, so Black Friday's behind us. It's been a busy time. I'm thinking a lot about January, February, and what's going to happen there. I'm also looking forward to a bit of time off, and also just can't believe is it 27 episodes? This will be 28. Yeah,
28, I think.
Yeah. That's just crazy to think we started this like almost 9 months ago, 10 months ago, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was. We'll dig in here. Well, the podcast. The first episode. It went live in March, I think. March 5th. The trailer. Wow. It'd be kind of fun to look back on that. Maybe I'll watch that after this. See the young and naive leading a podcast.
To see less lines.
Yeah, less lines, less gray hair. I think my beard's gone through a couple transitions in the last 9 months. Blind to leading blind.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been interesting. It's been a pretty wild year. Oh yeah, I was gonna pull up some numbers. So we're over 500 lifetime downloads for the pod, which is really cool. Unreal.
Yeah.
I think we've got like almost 50 subscribers on YouTube. I've subscribed with every single account that I have. So that's probably like 5 of those, which is awesome. Doing my part. I hope that you all do that too as well. Boost those ego numbers for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been great. And it's pretty cool to see the trends. Like there's been some consistent numbers here, some like slow gains and consistent numbers.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. I wonder what our most popular episode has been.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I think it's in the episode breakdown, well, at least by downloads. I can see it's a few around.
I found it.
Yeah, I found it too. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, it's the classic buzzword AI.
It is.
AI. And then Meta has another classic buzzword.
And then also, but there's some ones about operations, like, where is it? Maybe I just imagined that. The ads one. There is one around like creativity and operations and stuff, and like trying to be creative with cash flow and things. So that's obviously like something that people are interested in. I think maybe specifically like nowadays when it's, profitability is tough.
Interesting. Most popular platform. Spotify. Wow.
Okay. I would actually want to know this. I actually only listen to Spotify for music because I don't like podcasts showing up at the same place as music because it kind of just annoys me. I don't know if you're the same.
Yep, I boycott podcasts on Spotify.
Yeah, me too.
Except for the ones that are like exclusively on there where there's only a few. And I usually wait until those start to distribute to other platforms and will sometimes watch them on YouTube, like when I'm at the gym or something, which happens sometimes, or actually Pocket Casts, which I see on this list. Not the most popular, but Pocket Cast is my go-to. Castbox is actually consistently, it looks like Podcast Addict is the second most used platform. Over the last 12 months. Interesting. Oh no, that's Apple Pod. That's Apple Pods. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some. I'm also looking now at the countries, right? We've got I mean, obviously the US is the main part, but we've got some listeners.
Russia. All right. That's enough. That's enough of that.
We've got some listeners in Russia, in China, in India, in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Spain, Europe, different places. UK, that's probably all me. Belgium. Actually, there's quite a few listeners in Europe, and South America somehow. Wow,
that's cool. Hola.
But it's a 60% almost in the US, which is expected, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even breakdown by state. Looks like California's topping the charts.
And Washington's number 2. That's all me. Maybe. I don't know. And my family. Shout out, Mom. Hey, Mom. No, I doubt she's made it this far. It would be very boring.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I've even bothered to share it with my family because they'd be like, what? What
you're doing what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and I think if anyone has, like, we really want to know what like other things to talk about, right? Especially going into 2026. I think we're going to talk about a bit of a recap of what we've seen in 2025. But if there's other topics or like certain people we want to try and get on, or like whatever it is, I think we're keen to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. Always open to feedback. Always open to thoughts. Let us know how we can make it better and what you want to hear the most. Because we've got a bunch of ideas, but I mean, we can talk about AI if we need to more. I feel like it's surprising that's number 1 episode, kind of, but also I think it's such a hot topic that there's constantly demand for that topic. And I've been using, I mean, I'm sure you have too, Jack, but I've been using AI extensively. Like it's kind of funny talking to people that are outside the industry and stuff like, hey, AI is a buzzword. Hey, wow, are you using AI in your job or whatever? And I'm like, you have no idea how many prompts I send in a week. It's like hundreds probably. And like working yesterday, for example, I was trying to figure out why my new product samples of grid fleece aren't exactly what I want. And, not being an apparel technical designer, I don't have the background to say like, the stitching or fabric or whatever, the weave, all these different things. And so super random topics like that I work through with GPT and AI and stuff. And obviously the image and rendering and content creating and stuff, that's like the really hot topic right now. Maybe we can get to that in a future episode and talk about that a little bit more. I tried that tool recently that seemed like a really good one. And I can't even remember the name, but there's just constantly AI tools that.
The email one, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I was actually thinking about the content one, but the email one I've been trying to figure out how to use it as well. And anyways, we don't have to get into that. We can save that for future episode, but.
Yeah, one thing I was going to add quickly is that if there's any like way to show how AI can be done in e-commerce, I think it's like this new Shopify Editions release. I feel like if anyone's doubting like how AI can work in e-commerce, when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, they've hit on the nail on the head with so many different use cases for AI. Like the it's called SimGym. Was it called SimGym? The new one where you can like simulate. I mean, we'll have to see how well it works, but like just the idea of like being able to like, one of the biggest problems probably you and I have is we can't properly A/B test things because we're too small, right? I mean, to think that you'd be able to test something like on huge points of data before you launch as a small brand is like a massive, if it works, is a massive, like, this is a huge thing to have.
They are constantly, I'm I drink their Kool-Aid pretty heavily, but like, it's really impressive how often they can push that envelope in terms of the, like Shopify, that is. Shopify can push the boundaries of like, this is what we're building. This is what we're pushing the envelope in terms of e-commerce in these different areas. And it's fantastic. I've told people outside the industry several times that I think they're one of the top 3 to 5 software engineering companies in the world. And I stand by that. I mean, I think OpenAI is up there, of course, but like Shopify's incredible, the amount of ROI that they can get out of their engineers and stuff. Anyways, ecom. Should we talk about ecom? State of the world, ecom world, 2025. Let's see what happened this year. Content's changed so much. I feel like Instagram's changed so much. That's been heavily impacted my brand, heavily impacted how I operate and stuff. And just, we were talking about this pre-episode a little bit too with TikToks. There's been, TikTok came in really hot into 2025. Everyone thought it was going to be the future. TikTok shops were going to be the future. this is the future of shopping. And there's still, I think, the voices shouting, advocating for that in some realms, but I think in general, it seems like there's been a pullback from that. And you mentioned this off air, Jack, but like Facebook gave up on their own shop platform. So there's just been so much changing with social media, and I think social media as well. We've talked about this a little bit, but it seems like there's a sort of splintering of social media in terms of how humanity's using it. Like, I feel like the platforms are getting a little bit more, I don't think opinionated is the right word, but I don't know. They're just like, people either love them or hate them in some ways. And I think there's a lot of users that are kind of sick of it, but they just keep using it because we're all addicted. And so I think that will be interesting in the near future. Like, I've seen, like, my brand started on Twitter, for example, and I think that there's been a huge exodus from Twitter for a lot of Gen Pop in certain realms. Like, it's just like not a platform anymore. Like, hardly anyone uses it except for like a couple niche groups or whatever. So that's been really crazy to watch, and I don't know what's going to happen in the future for social media, but it seems it's like Instagram's basically trying to rip off TikTok, and like TikTok sold out. They changed the ownership at one point because they were going to go away, and so that's been kind of an interesting. Like, I think there's probably been a lot of dynamics underneath the hood that we don't even know about that has changed a lot there.
Yeah, I think Meta, I think, is winning by default, being a US business, and I think they are ripping off TikTok, and to be honest, so is Google, right? I mean, they're with shorts and stuff. They're all doing it, and I think they're actually surprisingly winning. I think people thought, well, they're never gonna, like, TikTok's still gonna be like known for this, and I actually think, not that TikTok's like not a massive platform, it is, but I think the way that TikTok's been pulling away from TikTok shops, and kind of almost like actually taking a page from Meta's playbook, it seems, and actually just pushing its ad platform more. It'd be interesting to see what happens next year, but it definitely felt like all the idea behind those marketplaces on social media and like what isn't gonna be the case, or at least not yet. And it seems like because there's a huge amount of investment they had to put in, they'd rather just rake in the cash from advertising. But then, yeah, I agree. I think the social media platforms are very fragmented at the moment, and I think everyone kind of still is that, like, you and I still advertising a lot on Meta because it's still like the place where most people are, but organic is like, it's so hard to crack there. I think it's just really hard to crack there. So and I think, yeah, what you've been doing tons of organic content this year, I think, and I've tested a lot of different stuff. And so, yeah, what do you think in terms of like what's working, what's not?
Yeah, I think organic's still going to be the play and will be even more important in the future. And that's, so many brands are leaning into that. Like, we've seen the Cut 30 crew, like those guys in that class, that course, has grown in popularity. Like, it's the go-to in our little niche of the internet in terms of how to learn how to do that organic play, because there's just, this seems like a general theme, and I think we've talked about this before. There's so much noise online, and you have to fight for those eyeballs. Like, whether it's you, as smaller brands, we kind of have to attach to like bigger moments, or like find audiences and things that people care about, and kind of, like tag onto that demand engine, because we can't really like build our own. We're not going to be Outdoor Voices or something like that, where you can have this like built up thing where people can be a part of it. And so the organic content, I don't think that is going to go away anytime soon. That's still going to be a huge focus. Perhaps paid advertising will be easier in the near future. I know that Facebook and Meta really, like, they own a massive amount of eyeballs, and they're continually ripping off and buying platforms like Threads, for example. I've seen a huge uptick in Threads to replace Twitter, and that's just another Meta, basically, ad platform is what it turns out to be. And so I think that Facebook's made a ton of changes under the hood, and they will continue to make changes and focus a lot more on AI and trying to, it kind of like seems like they're moving in the direction of removing the button clicking from the paid ads and making it more, hopefully, automated and like automatic for brands. So it's kind of like, make content and get it out there. You don't have to worry about like targeting and all those sorts of stuff. In some ways it's good. In some ways that just means that the content itself has to be that much better to stand out. And so that will be interesting to watch in the future.
Yeah, one thing I think on the paid ad side, it seems to me anyway, is because of like the automation and the focus on creative, it seems like it's rewarding very broad and trending products and brands. So if you have a broad appeal and it's like a trending topic, like for example, some sort of health and wellness thing, for example, I like creatine or something like that. I mean, like maybe that's not exactly 2025, but that sort of stuff where it's got a broad appeal. It's and I think like they love that because it's easy for them to go and find pockets of different customers that they can, especially as they're always like pushing now. They're like so many different types of creative and like different angles and hooks. And so it seems like for brands that have more of a niche audience, it seems like before with things like Facebook groups and real followers that actually saw your content, it was easy as a niche brand to make money. And I think it's now becoming this sort of thing where the broader your appeal, actually, the better. Which it seems to be anyway. That's kind of the way I've seen it go this year.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It does. That like pullback from having a lot more control means that it is sort of like a general thing where it's like, oh, we're going to go try and find those people for you or whatever. But obviously if you have a larger appeal, then there's going to be a larger pool that we can target and find and that sort of thing. And it'll be more efficient. That is interesting. I think it's 2025 was so hard for many brands and there's so many reasons. I think the social media changes were part of that. The tariff whiplash were definitely a huge part of that here for a lot of brands in the States where it's like, now I just the other day I saw an outdoorsy brand that I admired closed up shop because they're like, we just can't survive anymore. And so it's been brutal. Like, I think there's been such a roller coaster ride. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be it's not going to get easier. I don't think, maybe marginally. But it's so hard to get those eyeballs. It's so hard to like talk to it's like even once you get the eyeballs in or like you have followers of the brand and that sort of thing, it's still hard to get them back in. Like I was thinking the other day, there's a couple brands that I follow on Instagram on my personal account that I like that I haven't seen for a while just because like, I don't know, I didn't like their posts or whatever. And so like, I'm not back in their engine. Like I'm not back in their sort of like pool of what Meta will serve. And so that's going to be hard. The economic environment has been tough over the last year. I know that's been really tricky for a lot of brands to navigate. And I think consumer demand has been all over the place. Like it has not been strong, I'd say, over the last 12 months. And it's going to continue to be rocky going forward, I think. The tariff stuff, I mean, that's been beat to death. We've talked about that before, but that has also just been brutal. It's like you have no idea what you're going to pay on something tomorrow versus 2 months. And, as we've talked about, we have to plan so far ahead of time. That's just impossible to forecast with.
Yeah, it's really tough. I think we both felt that. Yeah, I do think I think it's also been harder this year if you're a like brand that kind of uses affordability as like a USP, because I just think it's so hard for any brand to be just like ultra affordable these days and to try and beat on price. I mean, I'm sure there's brands that still manage it, but I think it's a lot harder. I think everyone's kind of almost pushing into that, not premium, but like higher end tier without even wanting to, just because it's just how prices are right now. So it makes it a little bit harder, I think, on the on them, but even on the premium brands, because it's like, that there's just almost like not the same difference in terms of perceived value now.
Yeah, a lot more competition on that higher end, medium end, or whatever it is. Interesting.
Yeah, and I think I've heard from others that like the premium brands are doing well or doing better this year. So it definitely seems like everything's moving. It's with inflation, with tariffs, it seems like everything's moving in the direction of price increasing.
That's tough, especially with the rising ad costs and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting squeezed from like all angles.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's great. It's great. Do we want to get into like our brands and how the last 12 months have been for us?
Yeah. There's one other thing actually I wanted to say, I think, is that I think distribution has become more important. Maybe this is a bit broad, but like, I've got two things. I think first thing, I think distribution has become more important. I think if you have inlets to reach customers, whether it's like distribution through, having a creator on board, if they, creator brands, or whether it's like their distribution through retail, or whether it's just like some way to meet customers where they are that isn't Facebook ads, is becoming extremely important. I think anyone that has that has done better this year just because of that. The other thing I was going to say is I think wholesale has been tough this year. I've actually had a better wholesale year than I ever have, but I've seen it very tough. And I would say and I don't think marketplaces like Fair and things like that are actually doing very well. I mean, I've definitely seen Fair drop for me, and I just got lucky with other stuff. But I've definitely seen Fair drop, and I think those kind of I'd be interested to see what their numbers are like, because I kind of feel like they must be doing worse this year, because a lot of the smaller businesses that they basically rely on, that are buying very small amounts of product, which is basically the type of retailer that's on Fair, they must be ordering less. So yeah, I sort of thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what their numbers look like, but I would say that from my perspective, wholesale's been an absolute, I don't know, just disaster. For lack of a better word, it's been traditionally been strong for me over the last couple of years. This year, completely destroyed, down 70% year over year or something like that. Just no one will buy, no one that's bought in the past will buy. I try and do all the things on Fair that I'm supposed to do, kind of thing. And I'm at the point where it's no one is ordering on Fair. I used to get a couple orders a month organically. I used to get a couple orders a month via the 2 to 6 emails I send out a month on Fair. 0. And even looking at click-through rates and order rates and stuff like that. And Fair is focused a lot on their ad platform, which is really annoying, but that also hasn't worked for me. I was looking at, I stopped the ads the other day. I turned them off because it had driven 6 ads in the last 6 months, and not repeat purchases, and basically the ROAS is very low, and the cost wasn't there, basically.
Yeah.
So wholesale's just been a complete just disaster for me, and I think that a lot of the small shops that would buy historically are feeling that pinch. And I haven't even had any nibbles. There's one nibble the other day where someone asked, would you do consignment? And I was like, that's such a painful operational nightmare to deal with. I've done it before once, and unless the volume's crazy high, it's just not worth the time. And so we'll see what the future looks like for wholesale. If I would have set so many records this year if wholesale would have been even or increased from the prior year.
Yeah. Consignment is a word that I hate. I hate that word. I'm just wait, you want me to ship stuff, have it sit there, and only pay you if you sell it? And then oh my God, I just, don't get me started on that. I've had that with retailers as well, where and then I've had some here in London that are just yeah, but our space is prime space in London, so we get marketing. And I'm just yeah, but I could also sell that stuff. It's just sitting there.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Unless it's dead stock or something,
yeah.
And then who knows if it would move if it's dead stock for them. The other thing I was going to say quickly to add on, huge shift over the last year has been away from pretty polished campaigns and stuff to individual faces, is how I would describe it. Basically the content and people's purchasing habits are not driven by your really cool, well done, at least from what I've seen for the most part, video that you've made showing off products or whatever. It's they're way more apt to, and this is driven by the TikTokification of social media, but it's they're more apt to buy when it's hey, I'm David and I designed this thing and here's this thing and this thing, than a really well done video that obviously cost some money to make. And so that's been, I think, a huge trend that I've seen. It's just buying habits and social media content habits are kind of shifting from polished to more raw and organic. And organic's not organic as in organic content, but organic as in not made or not polished, I guess.
Yeah.
Just very unfiltered sort of stuff.
Yeah. I think one thing I add to that as well, I think is they depends on the brands, but I think I've seen some brands that do it so well where their stuff looks really branded and clean, but at the same time it also has that real kind of edge to it that kind of lends itself well to social media and virality and stuff. And you can get that kind of combination. It's really cool because it shows off your product in the best light. It looks kind of according to your brand, but at the same time people feel it's kind of, it fits on social media. So I think people in some brands that are doing that well. I think it depends on what type of brand you are, but yeah, I think that I agree with that. I see your emails as well. I think you've done such a good job, especially I've noticed this last sort of 6 weeks or something, like your emails, I want to read them. I know obviously you and I have friends and stuff, so I mean it's a bit biased, but I like the way you do your emails. I think it works really well for your brand, because I think you could have tons of cool images of like the jacket, but actually people want to know what you have to say about the jacket. I think people want to know what you have to say about it, and I think they want like, and like the gamification of the offers and that sort of stuff, I think is a really cool thing you've done recently. I think it's paid off as well from what you've told me.
Well, thanks, because I'm over here scratching my head this week. Like, what am I gonna do for emails? So that's helpful. I think so many times as like solo operators and stuff in this world, it's so easy to be, nose deep in the mud and the muck and trying to figure out like what's going on. And it's so hard to zoom out and be like, oh no, like that did work last month. And I think recaps like this are helpful to think about that, like, and even just get other perspective on things like, oh, Jack really liked these emails. Let me circle back to see like what was working in those and double down on it, because that is like, I try and do that with content, but I think with emails, actually, I don't do that as much as I should in terms of analyzing and then taking like a path forward based on what's worked in the past. It's interesting.
Yeah. I was going to say another thing.
Yeah.
So another thing this from my own brand's perspective this year, I think that I'm going to try and take into 2026 is trying to be really creative with purchase orders and like trying to get retail people on board and like try and get just try and be really smart about trying to get some money up front before I place orders. I know it's not going to be possible all the time, but it really helped me this year. And I think that kind of lends itself into a wider like profitability side of things. Just thinking, I think this year it's been more important than ever to know like your margins, and it's not that knowing your margins doesn't mean you can always do something about it. I think that's another thing. I think a lot of people talk about like, how important finance is and stuff, and it's like, well, yeah, but actually, it's not always easy to make a change, even if you are making a loss. But I do think just being more educated, I think I've become more educated. I think most people have become more educated on the finance side of things in ecom because of how things have happened. So I think that's kind of a trend I've seen happening generally, and I think it's something I've definitely seen in my business, that like just being smarter about money coming in and out, and trying to like, and just from a cash flow perspective as well, try and get things in quickly, and almost sometimes take a lower margin for cash up front as well is another thing.
That's interesting. That's not something I've tapped into enough, I think, because that is like being creative with the financials and the cash flow. It's like, it's all about cash at the end of the day when you're kind of managing the financial aspect of things. Like there's many aspects to the business in general, but like that cash is so key. Interesting. What else has worked over the last like 12 months for you and your brand?
I'd say I was talking about someone earlier about this as well, is that I think the novelty of product launches and like building that into almost like your systems as a business, that you are launching things often, and it's really hard. It's a bit like social media. Like it's so hard to build in like a consistency of creating content, and it's so easy to slip behind and then let it pass, and then a few days go by. Same thing with product launches. I think it's so hard to keep that kind of momentum going, especially smaller brands, not just from a cash perspective, but just from like a and I don't mean like new launches into like has to be a whole new product. It could be a new color, it could be like certain offers, it could be free, so there's things like that. But like all of that stuff, just newness, I think from 2025, I think I've noticed is like being really important. Like we like when we launched some new colors and stuff, just everything performed better, because not because that color was necessarily selling out like crazy, just because everything sold better when we had things to talk about. And so I want to try and do this more in 2026. I think it's so important, especially as things are getting more competitive, as people, it's harder to reach people nowadays. I think if you've got a reason for them to want to open your email, basically, if they know that you're launching stuff regularly, and whether it's a sale, whether it's a new product, whether it's whatever, if they know that's coming regularly, they're more likely to open your emails, and therefore, Gmail is more likely to show them your email and not put it in promotions folder, and on Instagram, it's more likely to see your reels. And so I feel like this whole newness thing helps all these different channels. So that's something I think I wouldn't say I've done it amazingly well this year. I just seen it, when I have managed to do it, I've seen that everything work better. So I think that's something that's probably quite important.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. That's one of my big takeaways for this year, and something I want to continue to push the envelope on is doing more frequent product drops. And I think that was one thing that I got stuck in a rut sort of in the past, where it was like, oh, I don't want to launch new things because that will cost money, and like these things are good enough, and I don't want to contribute to fast fashion and that sort of thing. But there's something to be said about compelling the eyeballs when it's something new, whether it's a new offer or a new product or a new color or some just sort of new thing, where it's like that is way more interesting to the person. And if you can build that into a system and build it into like a cycle where it's like, some of the big brands are doing like launches every Friday or whatever. There's that knife company, Montana Knife Company, that just drops every Thursday, and like all these sorts of things where it's like, there's a reason that that's on the tip of people's tongues, or like they're like, oh, I want to go see what they're putting on Instagram because like there's some new knife coming or whatever. Like that keeps people really interested and engaged, rather than like, oh, here's another video that's blah 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 or whatever. It's like not that interesting.
Yeah, and like
people
love
new stuff.
Yeah, and not just. I mean, I think new stuff is obviously the best thing, but like just newness in general. So you I think did something on Instagram where you like gave away some gifts to like some abandoned checkouts, and like if people start to like to realize that kind of stuff is stuff that you're doing, like not necessarily like has to be a discount, but like just interesting, like, oh wow, what's this? What's he do? What's Rainier Watch doing now? So stuff. Like it's just they're more likely to engage with the brand, whether it's on social media, whether it's on email, whether it's whatever, because it's almost like, it's almost the same way like people think that discounting can almost like people expect discounts. But if they expect like interesting content the whole time, whether it's a product launch, whether it's like an offer or something, I think that just makes people want to engage more. And I think like Taylor Holiday talks a lot about this as well, like the 4 peaks. And I think it's almost like if you have a peak of some kind, you have these mini peaks around it, you just keep people constantly thinking, oh, that's really cool, what they're going to do next.
Yeah, like be super, super interesting, which is really, really hard to say. Like it's super easy to say, hard to do. Same thing with product launches. Like this last year, I feel like I've spent so much time on developing new products and like building out my catalog, and like I spent hours this week trying to figure out which swatch to go with and like what the differences are and why the sample doesn't match the swatch that I selected and stuff. And when you're in the weeds there digging through on products, it's the same sort of thing where it feels like you're not making progress, and it feels like it's not, there's no short-term dopamine hit of like clicking a couple buttons in Facebook Ad Manager. But from a grander scale, looking at the high level stuff, developing new products, really focusing on things that people really like. Like there was a brand the other day that was talking in one of my ecom chats about their products like weren't getting very good reviews, and they're asking like, oh, should we focus more and like, so our ad performance isn't that great and that sort of thing. And it's like the biggest advice that the people that were giving him that are bigger than me and smarter than me, more experienced than me, were basically like, focus on your product. Like that is how you turn your company around, kind of thing. Like product is so important. Making things that people really, really want and making things that are really, really good can help you stand out. And you can like, there's like a whole, it could be like an XY graph where it's like really good marketing, crappy product, like that can win, or like really, really good product, crappy marketing. Like you kind of have to figure out where you're going to fit into like the demand and where it fits with customers. But it's, yeah, I can't even remember where I was going with that, but
no, I think you're right. No, you're right. Definitely. Product is the biggest lever for sure. Or lever. Yeah. Lever, as they say in the US.
No, I like lever better, actually. And how do you say, so when you have a certain item in stock, how much, and you have a certain amount of units in stock, what do you call that? Something that's in, it's not gonna work. I was trying to get you to say inventory.
Inventory, yeah.
Inventory. Oh, so good, so good. I recently started this video series called Boxland because we had so many boxes in our warehouse, which was fun. And I did a voiceover in CapCut from a British, it was called like Sir British or something was the voice thing. And it was hilarious. It was so funny. Love those accents. Yeah, speaking of content. Anyways, where were we going with that?
I mean, have you seen anything else on your brand side that like you've seen change in 2025, good or bad?
I've been dealing with a lot of internal issues on the backside of the brand, like overstocking too many different things and not cutting things fast enough, and probably not discounting certain things that I'm not going to keep around as much. That was one of the things that led to my huge November, biggest month ever, was doing a mystery sale on things that are going to go bye-bye into retirement, and also just embracing sales and offers more. And so that's something that I've been working on. The product stuff is also, but I'm working on a lot. I think that at the end of the day, I spend too much time in Ad Manager, and I think I've spent way too much time over the last 12 months trying to sell stuff that people don't want or whatever, or it's like not a highly, highly desirable product, or not. And that's only going to go so far, and that's not really going to work. Your efficiency is not going to be there for your ads. And so focusing on things, this is something I've been working on improving over the last 6 months, is focusing on the products that people really, really want, and kind of like laying off from the other things. And so I will continue to be doing that. Product development is really fun. I enjoy doing it. So that's like one of my favorite parts of the job. It's also like it's a really slow process. I have a jacket that will probably be done. I'll probably have to go through another sample round or 3 before next winter, but I want it now. And it's really cool, but it's so hard to be working on things 6+ months ahead of time, but that's really important to be doing that. And so that's going to be a big focus for me. Paying attention to the numbers better. That's been something I haven't been great at this last year. And so trying to dig into daily numbers and paying attention to all of those in Triple Whale or Clio or whatever it is, to be more operationally, basically have that knowledge there. I've been leaning a lot into more organic content, like you're mentioning, sending more emails in general, but like sending, good emails. That's something I want to lean into more. That's been working pretty well. Yeah, I think that's like the laundry list of things for this year. It's definitely been a very hard year. Like, luckily Q4 was really good and has been really good. Otherwise, I'd be sitting here like not knowing what to do with the brand, if I'm totally honest, because of all of the outside externalities, and like the mistakes that I've made started to heap up, or like pile up, basically. Being creative with financing our own inventory has been a big unlock too. Going for the inventory financing route, but being very specific, where it's like, this is a product I know will do well. It's done well in the past, and so let's finance it, and not for the things that won't do well. Being critical there.
Yeah, I think, at the end of the day, e-commerce, I think anything in business in general, but e-commerce, I think specifically where it's consumer goods, it's never going to be easy on you in terms of like, it's never going to take it easy on you, is what I mean. If a product is struggling, it's not gonna help you out, right? And I found that many times as well. And as much as I want a certain product to sell well, if it doesn't, it just doesn't. There are certain things you can do to improve it, but you're kind of fighting against the waves, really. So I'm like, uphill battle against the current. I was looking for the right analogy. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's kind of another big learning as well. It's like, is to just save your energy, and when you're in those situations, and just like, you have to learn from it, but like for next time, it's you've got to try and just build on what works, I guess.
Yeah, I think I've spent thousands this year on the wrong types of ads and the wrong types of products for those ads, and it's like, focus on what works and double down kind of thing. Like, that's an obvious thing to say, but it's sort of hard to think about in the moment when you're like, oh, well, maybe if I tweak this ad or change this ad set or something, like this hat will sell or something. But no, it's like, that's just, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
And that's something like CRO, for example. Not that I've really done any CRO, but I kind of feel like if you've got a high converting product, well, by all means, do some CRO if you want to try and eke out some more. But if that product is not selling well, CRO is not going to save that. It's it's unless you've literally got a really crappy, store, like, which neither of us do. But like, I just mean, like, maybe if you're really not good at Shopify, you might want to test like actually elevating things. I'm sure that will help. But like, if you're really struggling, I think it's most likely the product. And it's the sad thing about things. It's like, and I've had this problem many times as well. So it's just like, and I continue to have it. So it's just one of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, paying attention to like the little finite details of like, oh, button color or whatever doesn't really matter if like people don't actually want it. And you know, there will be people that want a certain thing. There will be some people that will, and you know, there's 7 billion people. There's at least one that's going to buy something, even if it's just your mom. But like focusing on the larger numbers, like, does this, are lots of people buying this product? I'm sending thousands of dollars in ads. Is it working? Like, yes, then great. No, or maybe, or you're below your efficiency watermarks that you need to hit, then move on. Like, cut it, move on, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's why some of those bigger operators and people like that who like bigger brands, they're able to look at that and say like, well, this is my kind of like, this is where it needs to hit in terms of for it to be successful for me. And if it's not, then that's not worth investing more money in. I think because they've hit that, they've seen what's possible, they can have that mindset. I think you and I and smaller brands, I think, do you want something to work and you're going to try and make it work? And sometimes, I'm not saying it's not worth fighting for things and making things better, because you can turn things around. But I do think that having that frame of mind, like trying to create something where people really want it from the beginning, it saves a lot of headaches further down the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Highly desirable. Attach yourself to a demand engine if you can't build one, because building one's really hard, or build one kind of thing. That's true. Do you have any other closing thoughts? We're getting close to the end of time here around 2025.
No, I mean, I think I'm looking forward to seeing what 2026 brings. And I mean, I realized at the end of this year, like, I still absolutely love what I'm doing. And I think you probably think you do as well, right? So I think it's, you know, I won't speak for you, but like, I think it's something I realized. It's been a tough year, but as we got towards the end of the year, it kind of reminded me of all the work that's gone in throughout this year. And it was cool to see it kind of show itself. I think I might have mentioned this on a previous episode, but that's just something a final thing for 2025 is like, I'm still enjoying it, and I love doing this, and I like building it. I think above all, I like building something and making it that little bit better each day. So I'm looking forward to kind of continue to do that next year, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. That's awesome. Cool. Well, that's a wrap for this year. Catch y'all next year, perhaps, or we might have another episode coming out soon. We'll see. But thanks for sticking around. Let us know what you think, and see you next year.
5 stars.